Hey there! I asked a while ago for people to give me some topics they might want me to talk about, and then they did. And so I'm kind of working through those topics in these talk videos. And today what I want to talk about, I thought was a very interesting question. Why are some pen materials so coveted? And I think the simplest answer, but that would not make for a very engaging video, I think the simplest answer is because they're pretty. And then people want to buy them because they're pretty. But I think it's a bit more complicated than that, because I think more factors than that come into play. Now, I'll take a classic example. I don't have one of those pens here right now, but Arco Celluloid. Arco Celluloid is, I think, maybe the most coveted pen material in the history of fountain pens. And there's the bronze material, the green material, and then there is a sort of a gray material that you find in some older pens, not really used anymore. Why is that particular material so popular? Well, because it's pretty. And I think that's a very important factor in that. Because it's rare, I think that is something that absolutely comes into play. Things that are rare, that have a finite supply, tend to be popular because then people don't want to miss out and they want to get that. And there was actually quite a bit of Arco Celluloid, but it is a limited supply. So that comes into play as well. Now, there are two more factors that I think are important not to overlook. One is a group process. I think people influence each other. And I have felt in the past that reviewers are kind of guilty here. Because when I'll just speak for myself. When I have reviewed Arco pens, I've typically been very positive about them. I've owned a number, I've sold most of them, but it is a very attractive material. And so then as a reviewer, you show off that product and you're very positive about it. And then I think it's quite easy to make other people enthusiastic about that product as well. Because if enthusiasm can be infectious, right? Then the viewers become enthusiastic about it because you're enthusiastic about it. And I think that is absolutely a factor in this as well. And I sometimes feel that is part of the reason that the prices for Arco were driven up so much. Now, there's a lot more to it than that, because Arco really came from Omas. Omas went under. There were rods of Arco Celluloid. One person bought up all those rods. So, I mean, there is the simple fact of, well, it was this one company that had this material. They went under, so now I shouldn't miss out. Right? It's the standard fear of missing out. I should get some Arco before it's all gone. And I think it's certainly been marketed that way too. Not only if it's a beautiful material, but hey, the stocks are running out. We only have 50 rods left. We only have 10 rods left. We only have 1 rod left, and then people go along with that. So I think that's part of the issue as well. Now, what I find interesting, I did a video on this a couple of years ago now. What I find interesting is how much people are willing to pay for something like Arco Celluloid. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to focus this video only on that, but I think the Arco is a very illustrative case where Arco pens now go for $1,500, $2,000, while when those pens were released, and I'm not talking about new modern made pens, I'm talking about the original Omas pens, when they were released, they may be $500, may have been $500, and they've increased tremendously. And you see this, just to make sure that it is not a video only about Arco, you see this in other pen materials as well. For example, I recently saw, this is really a couple of days ago, I saw a post on a virtual pen show where someone offered the Classic Pen's LM1. Again, I don't have that within arm's reach either. I'm sorry, but I've reviewed it a while ago. You can look that up if you want to see it. In the red diffusion-bonded acrylic. Very popular. I can't say the most popular of the diffusion-bonded acrylics. It is to me, but other people have different preferences. The LM1 is not a particularly limited pen. So there were 500 LM1s. Then you had the the LB5. There were 50 of each color of that. So the LM1, talking about the red, 500 of the red ones. LB5, same brand, there were 50, and then LB6, same brand, there were 10. So of these pens, the LM1 is the least limited. I purchased that pen black 2016 maybe, Madrid pen show, something along that period of time, for $500 from Sarge Minhas. And this pen, same model I have, was now listed for $2,500. Well, classic pens has disappeared from the scene. Like classic pens became Lambrou pens. Lambrou pens has disappeared. Andy Lambrou has frankly disappeared. So I think this is the same thing. There was a limited stock of diffusion-bonded acrylic. The company went under. I think that is fair to say because no more new pens are being launched. And now everybody wants it. I'm not commenting on this price. I'm not saying $2,500 is too much. What I'm saying is the price quintupled, right? So to me that's very interesting that there is the demand. And I bet you that pen is going to sell. That's a lot of money, so it's not going to, I don't think it's going to fly off the shelves, but I'm quite sure it will sell. And this was my lengthy way of building up to why. Why do people do that? Not the selling, but the buying. Why do you spend so much on a pen that has clearly increased that much in price, right? I've seen LB5s and LB6s go for $5,000–$6,000. Now the LB6 was an expensive pen. That wasn't the $3,000 range when it was released, but even so, that's now doubled in price, right? So it's again same diffusion-bonded acrylic. Why is that? Now I was thinking about this, and if you're an economist, you should probably stop watching at this point because I am not an economist. So I speak outside of my field of expertise, which is always dangerous. So if I butcher this, then I apologize. But here's how I understand this concept. I think this is a very interesting concept from economics that allows you to think about pricing. I think it's interesting. I want to share that with you. It's called elasticity of demand. Okay? And the way I understand that, which could be wrong, the way I understand that is it works something like this. I've drawn you a small figure just so you have something to look at as I talk about this. So I will hold this. So we have here a simple graph. We have price on the x-axis and amount purchased or number purchased on the y-axis. And elasticity of demand is a variable. So it can have different values. And I would first point your attention to curve B. Okay, curve B represents a product that has high elasticity of demand. And I think the standard example is candy. So elasticity of demand quantifies the relationship between a product's price and how much of that product is sold. Now think of candy. If candy up there, if it's cheap, as candy tends to be, so you have a low price, you sell a lot of that product, right? But now imagine that the price of candy increases, a sugar shortage or whatever, price of candy increases. Up to a point, it's okay. But fairly quickly, as price increases more and more, people are going to buy less of it. And let's be serious. If a bag of candy goes from $5 to $100, you probably won't buy it anymore because you don't need it. You could get something else that's more valuable to you at that point, that you need more. But now look at something else to make that contrast. Back to our graph. This curve A, as you can see, is a lot less steep. It goes straight for a longer time and then it drops off a lot less quickly. That would be something like gasoline, fuel for cars. As you know, fuel prices, they fluctuate all the time. But even when fuel becomes more expensive, right, as it goes up on that axis, people keep buying it because you need it. It doesn't matter whether it's more expensive, maybe it's 10 cents more than it was yesterday, you're still going to need it because you still need to drive somewhere. Now, for my European friends, it might be a little different, but in North America, I can tell you public transportation is pretty much non-existent. So you need a car to get to places. That's a reality. And as a result, we would say gasoline, fuel for cars, has a low elasticity of demand. Price will go up and up, but people will keep buying it. And at some point, of course, the curve will go down. Of course, at some point they'll start to buy less and they try to use their car less, but you need to get to work, right? I hope that was a clear explanation. And again, I'm stepping out of my psychological comfort zone here. So forgive me if I was wrong, but that's how I understand that concept. And for the record, I did publish once on neuroeconomics, so I know a tiny bit about it, but it's definitely not my full expertise, right? So now think of pens. I would find it logical to assume that pens have a low elasticity of demand, that as price goes up and up and up, people buy fewer pens. But that's not true. We see that that is not true. I had a conversation a couple of years ago with Peter Levine of Levine's Pens in Toronto. And he said, I'm paraphrasing a little bit because it's a couple of years ago, I don't remember his exact words, but what he said came down to, I have seen this change. So a couple of years ago, there's no way a $1,000 pen would sell. It wouldn't sell. You could try to put it on the shelf, nobody would buy it. But that has changed. Now people come into the store and give me $1,000 for a pen. And I'm not criticizing it. So now I'm speaking again. What I'm saying is that's an interesting change. And I think we've seen that change with fountain pens in our lifetimes. Just a couple of years ago, this started to happen. And people will now say, oh yeah, $1,000 for a pen. Yeah, that's fair. Not everybody would say that. But our view of the price of pens and materials has changed. Yeah, $1,000 for a pen. I have seen pens change in pricing. They were being launched, and of course they're marketed as being special and limited and all that kind of stuff, but I've seen it go up to a new pen, released, luxury, end of the spectrum, $1,000. And then it became $1,500, and then it became $2,000, and then it became $2,500. And I'm now talking about stuff like, say, pen family, the Arco stuff. But that's how it went. And this is not within the span of 10 or 15 years. This is 1 or 2 years, and that happened. And people were okay with it. They said, oh yeah, triangolo, $2,500, because it's green Arco, so it makes sense. I'm not commenting on this practice. I'm not saying, well, this is right, this is wrong. I'm just saying it's interesting that that has happened. So to me, counterintuitively, it seems like fountain pens or fountain pen materials actually have a low elasticity of demand. It's not high. It's not like with candy. I think, did I say low earlier? See, I'm out of my comfort zone. See what happens? I meant it's not high. Intuitively, I would say it's high. As the price goes up, very quickly, number of purchases drops off. But I don't think that's the case. I think the fountain pen community has shown that that's not the case. Because we keep buying that stuff. And of course, there are exceptions, and not everybody would. But there is definitely a core in the fountain pen community that says, ah, yes, Arco Verde. Well, $2,500, here's my credit card. Go ahead. So, low elasticity of demand. We keep buying it. Even as the price goes up and up and up and up, we keep buying it. You may buy fewer, but there also are fewer because they're limited to 100 pens or to 500 pens or whatever. Fascinating to me. If people are willing to pay that much for a luxury product. I'm not judging because I've done it once or twice. bought something that was very expensive, but we do it. And there are various justifications. Oh, but it's a silver overlay from Henry Simple, and he passed away. He was a great artist. He was. And he did pass away, and that's tragic. Paul Rossi, he made this pen. He was a fantastic artist, but he passed away, so now there's more demand. It's interesting to me. I've spoken. I think that's how I view why materials are in demand. You can come up with all kinds of psychological reasons. The artistry, it's rare, maybe the artist has passed away, it's limited, and I feel that sometimes companies capitalize on that and they make something more limited than it has to be, or they call it limited. Montblanc does it all the time. Here's a limited edition of 5,000 pens. Is that really limited? Is that really, I mean, yes, it's a finite number. Is that really a limited edition? And there's 5,000? Up for debate. I think those factors are important. People don't want to miss out. And then they kind of work each other up. No, we should all have Arco. You definitely have Arco. You need an Arco pen in your collection. There we are. I think that's my conclusion. Let me know what you think. And if there's economists in the audience, which there will be, please let me know how badly I messed up. There we are. I hope this was useful. And I'm glad to see you later. Keep the questions coming. If you want me to do videos about other material, I'm happy to think about it and give you my opinion. And let me know what you think. Why do you think certain pen materials are in demand so much? Was I wrong? There we go. I'll gladly see you later. Bye.